Today we're here with Floyd Kezele, professor at UNM-Gallup of Criminal Justice. Hi.
Hello.
My first question is, what is your career background?
Graduated from the University of Notre Dame from Loyola Law School. Started practicing law in 1976. Started teaching for the University of New Mexico in January of 1977. Had a private practice in law for approximately 10 years. Worked as prosecutor for area tribes, particularly the Zuni tribe. In 1983, I was moving towards giving up the practice of law. I became a tribal court judge, ultimately became a tribal court judge for several different tribes, started teaching across the country for the National Indian Justice Center. Brings us to the present date pretty much.
Okay. What made you want to become a teacher, and how long have you been teaching?
When I was in high school, Gallup High had a very strong club. It was called Future Teachers of America. I was a member of that club throughout my entire 4 years there. During that time, you got to go out every year that you were there. Actually, it was 3 years because we only had high school from 10th through 12th grade then. And you got to teach for a couple of days in the classroom. The first year I taught in the in the grade school, and it was tiring as heck with all those young kids. Then I taught in the middle school, and then my last year I taught in the high school. And it was quite interesting. And I remember we had a banquet for the Future Teachers of America at the end, and I was talking about all my career goals, and then I realized I was the member of the year for Future Teachers of America, and I hadn't even mentioned teaching. And I said, oh yeah, and I hope to teach it sometime. Well, after I finished, you never finish your education, but after I finished my formal education, I came back to Gallup, and I ended up getting hired as an adjunct professor by the original director here at University of New Mexico Gallup. I'm the only one that has served under every single director at Gallup, UNM-Gallup. So ironically, I started teaching right then, and I've taught ever since then. So I just finished 41 years of teaching here at the University of New Mexico Gallup. I've also taught for New Mexico State in grants, and I've taught for Western New Mexico.
What impact do you feel you make on your students?
What I want to do is encourage my students to be thinkers, not just to have opinions, but to have well-founded opinions. So that means you have to search out facts, and you have to relate them to your life's experience and what you want to do in life. For instance, today I have KSLs, which some education people will say that's knowledge supports learning. In my case, it's Kezele Supreme Law. I will either put in something that I say or something that is important. Today I use the quote of ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And so I related it to the students like, when you vote, how should you vote? And so one young lady said, well, I should vote for what's important for me as a teenager. And I said, okay, if I'm a senior citizen, then do I vote to support senior citizens things? And I said, I'm not for myself, but it's for a whole group of people, but is it the best thing for the United States? And so we actually had a well-rounded discussion on that as to what should happen. And yes, you can vote your own interests, but you also have to keep in mind how it affects other people's interests. And that's what I try to do, is encourage people to think about things and to always question what they're doing. Nowadays, it's especially important because you don't know where you get facts, and if what you get are really facts, or if it's somebody's opinion that they can dress up to make it seem like it's the truth. So my major impact is I want to help my students use their tremendous brains to think things through.
You said that you were a lawyer. What was your most memorable case?
Oh, probably my most memorable case involved a group of witches that ran the El Rancho Hotel in Gallup. They had a contract to go ahead and do that. The high priestess of it, who ran the coven, it was a coven of druids, ended up telling everybody that she knew what was best for them. A couple could come in and she'd say, no, you shouldn't be married. You need to be married to this guy, and this girl needs to marry to this guy. And she'd take them over to Grants and have them get married without benefit of a divorce. And if any child was born into the coven at the time that they were in the coven, she would take the child and discern whether or not it had any special spirituality. One such child that she took, she never gave back because she said that the child was Jesus Christ reincarnated. And that's how I came into being. People escaped from the coven, which is at the time was down near where Candy Kitchen is now. And they came on up and they came to me for help. And so we filed papers to get the child back. Ultimately, we were able to get the child back, and the coven left here and went up to Oregon. Several death threats during that time and other things like that. So, interesting case.
When you teach, what type of tactics do you use?
I use a lot of different things. I use the Socratic method, where we will state something and have people respond to it, respond intellectually to it, promulgating an argument, but it has to be an argument that's well-founded. I tell my students that I don't want you to say it depends unless you can give me immediately what the facts are that your answer depends on. I sometimes threaten them to make them wear a pair of depends if they say depends too much. Once again, they have to go ahead and state their opinion. If you say in my class, I guess that this is happening, I say you guess or you know. And they have to reformulate their argument so that they can state it factually and with a firmly well-grounded opinion.
What has been your biggest accomplishment as a teacher?
My goal as teaching is to try to help each student see the future from my shoulders so that they're better than I am and they see new things and they move on out. People that have been in the program of criminal justice since I've been here, the ones that are currently here, the ones that are currently employed only by the city of Gallup and McKinley County, bring in a payroll of over $1.5 million a year. So that means they can support their families and they can have dreams for their children so that they can go on to do whatever they want to do. When you consider that I was here when the police criminal justice program first started in 1977 to this point, a lot of the people that I've taught have already retired. In police work, you can retire after 20 years. So I talk about one student who came in as a student in almost 20 years ago now as an 18-year-old. He was married. His wife had their first child when he was in the academy. A couple of years ago, he made $95,000 a year, which is more than college faculty members make. Now, granted, it was with overtime and things like that, but it was quite good. He's going to retire in 2 years, and he's going to become a youth minister, so he can go on with his life. So what it is to basically give all my students the opportunity to excel. And I would say, for the most part, my students do excel.
A lot of your students that we interviewed mentioned that you like to joke around in class and challenge what they have to say. Do you believe that this is a way to benefit them as a student and like expand their mind?
Hopefully I'm not fooling myself. When you consider that I'm probably, in fact I am old enough to be the grandfather of some of my students, because there are people that I graduated with that are already having great-grandchildren. And I have a child who's graduating this spring, will be my last child to graduate. So we've sort of skipped a generation there. And so if I can engage them, sometimes with joking around and everything else, I think it's a little bit different than, oh, there's that old man up there trying to teach us something. So I try to be contemporary and try to do things, and I say, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'll put it in my generation's language so that I know what's going on, and then I'll tell you about it. Today we just had a thing, we talked about the third rail of politics, and so I told him, I says, Being a desert rat out here in New Mexico, we don't know about subways unless we educate ourselves. And in the subway, you have 3 rails, 2 rails that the subway goes on, and a 3rd rail that is electric that goes ahead and powers it. And in politics, we say you don't touch the 3rd rail because if you fall down in the subway and you touch that 3rd rail, you're instantly fried. And so, for instance, you don't touch the 3rd rail of Social Security because old people will say, don't touch my Social Security check. I depend on that. So we try to do things like that where we explain things. Other people that don't come from Gallup, they don't know some of the things that we talk about, like getting down from a ride. One of the reasons we get down from a ride is most of us have pickup trucks, and you get down from a car to get out of a car. So you have to expand your knowledge about all these things, and so I'll joke with them a lot.
And then my last 2 questions. What made you decide to get involved with the CCTE program? And what advice do you have for any prospective students looking to take the courses?
One of the great things about the CCTE program is that it gets students thinking about college, that they have to come in and they would realize that they may have some shortcomings. And the way that I try to run my classes is I try to work people through the process so that they can overcome their shortcomings. If they have inhibitions, they don't like to speak, you're going to have to speak in my class. I'm going to call upon you, I'll tease you into talking and different things like that. If you don't talk in my class, the next class you may be in charge of a group, and then you realize you're going to talk. It seems to work. One of the great things again with CCTE is it can put you on a career ladder. You can get into criminal justice, and the way we run the program now, you can get your associate's degree here, you can get your bachelor's degree, pretty much staying in Gallup the entire time, so that gives you a more economical setting. You don't have to worry about going someplace else, paying for room and board and everything else like that. You can become a police officer, you can become a probation officer, you can become a tribal court judge, you can be a lay advocate, you can go on to become a judge, you could be a substance abuse counselor. And I outlined there's at least 13 different occupations, careers that you can get into by starting off with a criminal justice degree. Job market is great out there. Retirement ranges anywhere from 20 to 30 years. You do not have to wait until you're 60-some to retire. You get benefits vested at another time. You can go on to another occupation. Then when you retire, you can have 2 or 3 retirement checks coming in. And as I said, the salaries are pretty good. Police officer can make $95,000 a year. We've had people come in from Dallas City Police trying to recruit our students to come over to Dallas to become a police officer. I'm setting up something there right now with what's Ish's favorite town? No, San Antonio. The police chief from San Antonio is retiring. He's taking over the criminal justice program at Los Alamos, and he mentioned that they are looking for police officers. And I said, well, send them on down and talk to my students. Maybe we can get some of our people to go out to San Antonio. There's a lot of good job opportunities out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.